Welcome back to The Big Picture, 9:40 on your Friday morning. So we're talking about artificial intelligence and how it's getting smarter and more autonomous by the day. Joining us right now, we have Nicole Jackson with Optimum Technology. So let's get to the beginning of this, because there was a recent report that examined an experiment where hundreds of AI agents basically carried out their own attack and then tried to hide what they were doing. What does this tell us about where we're at with AI?
Sure. So I think that we differentiate capability and likelihood. Today, artificial intelligence is at scales with agents, which is an ability for a large language model to take really complex data and take action. It is now transforming into things that can do penetration testing, things that security experts used to do before. It's taking all this aggregated data and it's able to help us understand vulnerabilities. But those same vulnerabilities it exploits can exploit us. And so, we're at a really interesting collision point, and what we want AI to do, a lot of deep conversations about what should be applied, what standards need to be applied, how we safely and securely ensure these applications are not doing things that are rogue to us. But I think it also tells us that we have a responsibility socially to have these conversations and to ensure that those that are deploying them understand those frameworks and they're deploying them safely.
And I know at the global level, we've seen different countries take different approaches at how it's going to regulate this. Right now, the U.S. currently doesn't have any overarching widespread legislation when it comes to managing AI. And we did see earlier this year some executive orders kind of overstepping what states were trying to do. So really, it's coming down to individual businesses to police themselves. And kind of where you work, Optimum Technologies, it's all about kind of incorporating this technology safely and securely into the business model. So when you're working with clients, how does that interaction work when it's like, okay, here's how we can use this, but do it in a way that's not going to open us up to vulnerabilities, and then also in a way that keeps us working ethically?
Sure. So I think that Optimum's whole perspective here is in understanding the frameworks that exist and deploying them. So we have two primary drivers right now. Nationally, we have something built by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's called NIST AI RMF. It has 1,100 total controls, a lot of information. But the key there is really top down, really helping organizations understand how they should appropriately govern, how they should train. And we align that really to what they're actually capable of maintaining at this time or sustaining at this time. So we think through things like, how have our staff been trained and what is the extension of that training? We think through things like data readiness. What type of data are we going to expose to an agent or to an LLM? And how safe is that based on our use case and capability? At Optimum really has been primarily focused in the public sector for 42 years, really helping our public sector partners. But we've also been advising our private sector partners because they're all dealing with the same issue. And the second standard is by the Institutes of Standards organization. It's called 42001. It's much more technical, very much for a practitioner, but there we are doing the same things. What are our responsible and ethical standards that we're going to use? What are our principles as an enterprise? If we say we want to be accountable, how are we going to be accountable? And are the people who are accountable for that system trained appropriately in order to be able to do that?
Do you anticipate at some point that we would see some federal legislation come down on how AI is managed?
My personal, and it's a personal opinion, not a professional one, but my personal opinion there is likely not. Just based on different states have different goals. I think that different states are at very different places right now in developing these regulations. And I look back at historical precedents when we had this question for privacy. We saw the European Union take an act with something called GDPR. We did not see the same stance from the United States still to this day. It is unlikely that we will.
And so the Trump administration, they've emphasized innovation and reducing these regulatory barriers. What would their argument be for that? And what are the risks with those guardrails?
Sure. So I think first if we really zoomed out to almost like a macro level and we said, well, where are we? We are in essentially a global arms race, right? The goal here is to understand the functional capability of these systems and how they're going to affect our GDP. But that pressure is directly meeting social pressure, sentiment. What do we want these systems to do? And I mean, I think realistically, the executive orders that have been put in place to ensure that we are still able to compete globally. but that will have a direct friction, I think, with what is actually feasible. So now we put that onus on organizations to understand, well, what do our constituents want? We put that onus on like governments. Well, what is the sentiment of our population and what are they going to accept? The conversation about data centers, the conversation about meaningful use and appropriateness and all of those in that discourse. And I think that we're at a social collision with both right now.
Right. And it does bring up that because I know last year and really the year before we saw layoffs in the business sector of people going, okay, well, we can use these AI agents for this. But then in recent months, we've seen kind of a walk back from that of realizing that these aren't ready to do everything that we could trust a human to do. And then obviously we have the massive data center pushback going on right now. So there are a lot of social pressures going on. And are there still a lot of economic pressures, though, kind of forcing the hand of large companies to adopt AI usage?
So I think there's an and there more than an or. So I think if we think about the layoffs that happened, a big push was like enthusiasm. So you think about 2022 and ChatGPT comes out, everyone's excited, humans were using it. And those same humans were also executives that were ideating on how can I use this in my work? But there we have a human being with individual context interacting with the chatbot, which is fundamentally different than an organization or enterprise being ready. What I personally found in embedding with a lot of organizations is that their data is not at a state of readiness. So it's a huge assumption, but human beings store a lot of information in their brains and they're not documented. The data may not actually be at a state of readiness to consume. And so some of the pushback and transformation has been, we had a push for enthusiasm happening. We think we can do all of these things. And on the other side, well, it turns out that we may not be at a state of readiness to do that, and there's our friction. But I do think that we're now at a leveling, and we will get there. And organizations do still need to compete, but they also have to be very thoughtful about what that means and the appropriate use case to do so.
And if we look at, this conversation maybe 5 years from now, what do you think AI will be capable that it's not reliably able to do right now?
Interestingly enough, there was a study from Anthropic in 2025, and it essentially stated that AI is only doing about 25% today of what it's capable of. If we inverse that question and ask companies instead, what do they want AI to be capable of, and what does readiness look like for them? I think that that's the question that's going to happen in the next 3 to 4 to 5 years. Really looking at the systems and what they are capable of and what we want them to do versus what we know we need humans to do, because human judgment is the biggest driver for success.
Right. Wow.
All right.
Great
Nicole
conversation.
Jackson.
Thank you so much.
Nicole Jackson, the Chief Technology Officer over at Optimum Technology.